Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1Mby1M Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. This is a public roundtable, our 491st session, free mentoring roundtable. You know, we have been doing these sessions for a long time. At this point, we've been doing this since 2008 fall, so almost coming up to 12 years. So a lot of people have participated in these sessions, over 150,000 people. And this is done in support of our mission. 1Mby1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. And our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. I'm sorry I cannot be on video today because I'm actually dialing in from my phone, and we have been advised that our power is going to be cut off. So I didn't want to take a chance of being interrupted in the middle of a session, and I saved all my phone power to do this meeting today. So, and I have a few other meetings that I have to also save power for. So the event is being recorded. You will be able to find this and all other recordings of our free roundtables on the YouTube channel 1M1M Roundtables. If you're live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. Our Twitter handles are at 1Mby1M and at Romana. We publish a lot of interesting content through those channels. Now, this is a roundtable, not a broadcast. So we do want you to participate as much as you'd like to. I cannot see your questions in the public chat today. So you're going to have to dial into the call and dialogue with me if you would like to converse with me. But I will, open this up open the line up for audience Q&A later on. Today, our first conversation is with Deborah Quazzo, Managing Partner of GSV Ventures. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So let's get acquainted. Let's get you introduced to our audience. Tell us a bit about your background and also about GSV.
Absolutely. We're GSV, stands for Global Silicon Valley. So we go at a global perspective. We focus on the $7 trillion global education and workforce skills marketplace. We do that through really two approaches. One is through a venture fund, GSV Ventures, where we invest in early stage, primarily early stage, although some later stage investments as well, in premier names in the education technology space. So companies like Coursera, ClassDojo, Course Hero, Remind, Photomath, Guild Education, et cetera, are in our portfolio between our two funds. And then we also host an event called the ASU GSC Summit when we're not in a COVID lockdown. It would have been physically would have occurred in the spring. We've been doing a series of virtual conversations in its place and are hoping that we can actually do it later in the year. But the ASU GSV Summit is a gathering of leadership across what we call the pre-K to gray learning and talent landscape, and it's usually about 5,500 people from all over the world sharing views and perspectives on the future of digital education. COVID's been a very interesting phenomenon for online learning, as probably everybody on this line knows. Whether you have kids or you're doing learning yourself online, it has sort of rapidly accelerated the sector. And so it's been a pretty active period for us as in the lockdown.
Very interesting. You know, we have covered Course Hero for a long time actually, and I know the CEO very well.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, actually, maybe 5 days ago, I spoke with the CEO of Quizlet. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we are going to be doing a big story on. We have our Entrepreneur Journey series where all these entrepreneurs are featured in very long feature stories, so a case study style. So we do cover online education in a big way. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in online education that are in our community. So very interesting. It's a area that is of great interest to us. How big is the fund?
Our first fund was right at 100 million. Our second fund, we're targeting 200 million with hard cap 250. We've closed on half of that, roughly 100 million at this point.
And what size checks do you write?
We have a barbell approach to investing. So the majority of our investments come in through seed and Series A. So we'd be in a seed round, putting in anywhere from 250 to $1 million on average. In the A round, we can put, anywhere up to, probably 8-9 million for companies that we are really see breaking out. We're trying to look at. We have a view that disproportionate gains accrue to a leader in tech categories. We're seeing that in spades during the COVID epidemic. And so when we see companies breaking out and we want to put a shoulder to it, we want to build up a position of 10 to 15 million in a single company. So the perspective that they could return the fund. So that's how we think about it in aggregate. But we will typically come in seed and Series A, but can also do a select number of later stage investments.
Later stage. Mm-hmm. So our interest is primarily in actually seed and Series A. So let's focus on that discussion. What do you like to see by way of proof points before you're willing to write a check?
It's interesting because we're sector experts and we've been working in education technology for over 20, well over 20 years. I have a partner in Silicon Valley, Michael Moe, who really wrote sort of the original thesis for a Wall Street investment category around digital education. And in the mid-1990s, actually, it was early, but it was a sort of a dead-on thesis. It took the sector, it's taken until the last decade to get there. But because we're sector experts, I think that we have pretty strong pattern recognition of what works and doesn't work. We're certainly going to make mistakes. We've made plenty of them. We'll make plenty more. But as a result, we have a framework we call the 5 Ps, which is the people is the lead and foremost and factor in how we invest, and the ability of that team to kind of shoulder a great idea forward, and then product, potential, predictability, and then purpose. Because we're not an impact fund, but we do believe that companies with purpose will have higher financial returns in the long run, and we do believe that every investment we make, has to be in companies and teams that are looking to make massive impacts. So you actually see across our portfolio, the companies that we're invested in so far are serving hundreds of millions of learners in aggregate. So what we're looking for is a breakout idea, white space within this pre-K to grade category that we've spent a whole lot of time in. Or a unique approach to go to market with a strong product. So we're looking first and foremost at a great team paired with an investment idea, an investment thesis, or if it's really early, it could be the thesis stage, or if one that's actually gotten out there and got proof points from customers. So we're actually willing to go in quite early on a selective basis. Depending on the strength of the team and the strength of the conceptual idea, we're willing to actually do that. Although then we're also obviously investing in the A round, at which point you're obviously going to have proof points.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about pattern recognition. So could you talk about some of the patterns that you've seen as success patterns, and also some of the patterns that you have identified as failure patterns in this sector?
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. So success we've seen. So I think Class Dojo is a great example in the K-12 market. We actually talked about Course Hero too. K-12, investing in the K-12 market, particularly for U.S.-based companies. And by the way, most of our companies end up with very large international components. In fact, ClassDojo's more than 50% of users are outside the U.S., but not when they started. So what we loved about ClassDojo is it didn't approach go-to-market in the K-12 space in the traditional way. The traditional way is you hire tons of salespeople. It's very expensive, very high barriers to entry, very long sales processes into K-12 districts and schools, and very, very difficult to scale. Some people have done it, but it's a very rare bird that does that. So what we loved about ClassDojo was that it was a free offering into schools, still is, always will be, free offering to teachers in schools, administrators. They began monetizing last year. That monetization is and always was planned to be through selling into the parent population. So never changing the dynamic of a free distribution of the product into the schools, with teachers and schools, within the monetization up with parents who trust the brand, having used it for many years with the school. So we think that's a very powerful strategy. We've seen that not only in our portfolio but in a number of other companies that are seeing breakout performance in the K-12 space have found a go-to-market that is not the traditional go-to-market for that space.
Deborah, can I stop you there for a second? I have a few questions. So you're looking for free distribution to teachers and students and monetization through parents.
That's right.
How do teachers and students and parents find out about the product?
It was really viral adoption. So in the case of ClassDojo, it was seeded amongst teachers. They developed sort of champions within school buildings, and it's a product for K-8, not K-12, but it was very viral. I mean, they did some intentional seeding with teachers who became passionate about the product, and then basically virally had it adopted by their friends and partners and colleagues in the teaching profession. So it's been it's a very low CAC in that way. And today, there are well over 50 million teachers, parents, students using the product globally. And in COVID, what's happened in COVID is, as you would expect, actually, the penetration within schools has dramatically increased. So while most every K-8 school has a teacher using the product, with everyone going online now, the product basically gives a teacher a virtual platform to communicate with students and to communicate with parents and with administrators, for that matter. And so as a virtual platform became more important than it was already, the penetration during the COVID period has been astronomical. So so that's basically it has been a viral adoption. It was Sorry.
Can we talk a bit about seeding such a viral adoption? If you're trying to reach these in the entire history of technology, bringing technology products to market, every innovator, every entrepreneur has had to look for early adopters, right? So in this case, we are looking for early adopter teachers who are dynamic and who are experimental and who like to experiment with new products. Is there a place where you go to find these early adopter teachers?
They're all
do you see that across companies? Yeah.
Sure, there are all kinds of teacher communities. Teachers are very interact a lot. Teachers share lesson plans. There's a very active. There are a number of different. There's a company called Teachers Pay Teachers, which basically is a platform for teachers, literally paying each other for lesson plan exchange at very low ticket prices. So there are lots of places where teachers aggregate, and the company has developed over the steady march of teachers becoming larger and larger numbers of teachers becoming digital natives. When the company was founded, which would have been 10 years ago or so, that was really the beginning of the move, the generational move of teachers becoming becoming digital natives. So that the company has really ridden that wave as well as a number of other things. But yeah, teachers are very communicative. They're very viral. They're a whole series of aggregators, hundreds of them, probably thousands of them, really, that are places where teachers gather to exchange information, views, lesson plans, etc.
Yeah, that's actually we've done a few of these online education focused discussions, and that point comes across every time, is that there are online ways of accessing teachers and leveraging their viral ability to propagate information, and they are digital natives, and there are a lot of digital native teachers right now.
That's right, and
so
they're also very strong. They have very strong opinions, and in a good way, and so they're very reliable in terms of being able to vet solutions. So if your solution isn't good, you're probably not going to get you're going to probably get some pretty heavy negative feedback pretty quickly, because teachers are very rigorous in the way that they consider things.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Now, you said you wanted to talk about Course Hero a bit?
Oh, sure. Happy to talk about Course Hero. Course Hero, as you well know, in the higher education space portion of the pre-K to Gray landscape. And what Course Hero was really developed by Andrew Brower, the founder, as you know, in his dorm room at Cornell, when he was trying to really create a platform for students, a technology platform for students to exchange notes. And that's grown into a very large business today. It's over half of college students in the U.S. and very large market positions outside of the U.S. particularly in English-speaking countries. He can, again, have over half in many countries. And that's important because the higher education market is not growing here in the U.S. In fact, it's declining along with our demographics, but it's growing very rapidly outside of the U.S. in emerging markets. But what Andrew figured out was that he basically removed friction obviously, going back to the dark ages of when I was in college, note sharing amongst students has existed forever. But what Andrew did was move it online. Allow students to sort of grade each other in terms of the quality of their delivery. It is now he developed a tutoring module off that, so strong academic students could then tutor other students as peer-to-peer. It's now a subscription-based product that offers all kinds of supplemental study supports for students to make them to raise, it's all about student success, and it's helping students where as Andrew would say, where they get stuck, and how do you help a student get unstuck and move to a successful academic outcome. Again, they've also seen tremendous growth during the COVID crisis, and as students have all gone online. And the piece of the business too that he has added in more recent years is also bringing faculty onto the platform. So now he has, I think, over 40,000 faculty members from all over who are sharing their own materials and benefiting from the the elevation that this platform gives to things that they're doing. So he really just kind of he created this frictionless layer that's really hovers above the university. It doesn't get, I think, not unlike the K-12 system, selling into the higher education system in a traditional way, which is, sometimes you can sell to the university itself into a procurement area at the university, but often you actually have to sell professor by professor or department by department, which is, as you might imagine, a very laborious and very expensive sales investment. It's kind of what the traditional publishers had always done, and so what Andrew, has done is, he has no salespeople. He has some when you could be on campus, he had campus champions in various places to support Course Hero on campus, but he basically created this frictionless layer that hovers above the university and allows students to tap in successfully. Also, a lot of students, it's a freemium model, so a lot of students use it get the benefit of it for free, and they can also get free benefits by contributing their own products. And so it's a mix of free and paid utilization on the platform, although conversion to paid is actually quite robust.
Yeah, it's an awesome company. I mean, my last conversation with Andrew was I think last fall or something like that. We had coffee in Cafe Boroni, and I think the company was already at 50 million, and
oh, it's well above that.
Yeah.
It would have been more than that in the fall, but yeah, no, it's a very successful business. Andrew, it's also very capital efficient. I went in as an angel investor in the one institutional round that they did, and then when we raised our fund, I put the angel investment into the fund, and then we actually went in by buying shares from founders, and because there was no capital need. They have recently gone into unicorn status and raised capital for different purposes, but like M&A activity and to give employee liquidity. But yeah, in addition to everything else, he built a highly efficient business from a profitability.
Oh yeah, in fact, that's when I first met him. Is when he had still been bootstrapping the company, and he went very far bootstrapping. That company is a wonderful case study of bootstrap first, raise money later, which has been our mantra more or less in this platform.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So, what are some other success criteria and failure criteria in your pattern matching? You talked extensively about teacher adoption and viral spread, and then monetization through parents as one of the pieces of success versus the failure criteria of trying to sell one by one to professors or teachers or school administrations. Are there any other such patterns in either direction that you have synthesized?
Yeah, I think those are, at least in the K-12 and higher ed market, those are really two of the biggest pitfalls. It is just very difficult to have the capital and the bandwidth to kind of roll out sales in a traditional sense in either of those markets. So I think those are pitfalls. Not to say we have an investment in a K-12 company and a second seed investment and second fund in a terrific company called IntelliSpark that's very early, but the two founders of Naviance, which is sort of the dominant college counseling software in high schools, and they're going to be selling into schools, selling a whole child measurement. The idea that there's a whole lot more to measure than grades and attendance, and I think schools are acutely aware of this, but there's no organized way to do it. We think it's a really important area. The idea of whole child. It's really resonated strongly with schools, and you've got two experienced entrepreneurs who've actually scaled a K-12 business in a traditional way, selling into schools. So it's not that we won't ever do that. So I think we'll see. We're very early, and COVID has obviously slowed anyone who has to sell directly into schools. The schools being closed, but so it's not to say it's not ever going to work, but I think it's a high hurdle. You have to have really the right group of folks. Trying to think about anything else. In the corporate market, I think you have to have that's been difficult because corporate learning historically was not highly prioritized. I think that dynamic has changed a lot as CEOs now understand, because we're going to go through the test right now. In a typical recession, some of the first cuts that would be made at headquarters would be in the corporate learning area, which was emblematic of the fact that CEOs didn't see it as a top 5 priority when the rubber hit the road. We're not seeing those kind of cuts this go around because CEOs have realized that even in a context of where they're maybe furloughing or laying people off, they still need to train and retrain. The term is skill and upskill and reskill. Their existing employees, the employees that are left, given sort of job obsolescence and other factors. So I think historically the enterprise learning market had been, there had been risk there in, recessionary risk there, and and the general prioritization of the area by companies. But I think that is, we've seen a sea change there that happened before COVID, but it's going to, we're going to test out the thesis during COVID as we sort of wade through this COVID-driven recession. But that's the other thing I can think of off the top of my head. I think usually the failures are related to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
In my
so one thing that you did not mention, but it's your portfolio actually reflects it, is and the general trends also, is a significant presence of user-generated content in the product strategy of some of the companies that we discussed, Course Hero being a prime example, even Pluralsight, which we also covered from very early on, and they did up to, I think, $16 million in revenue before they raised any money. That was a bootstrap company out of Utah.
Yep.
Also did a very interesting spin on user-generated content. Quizlet is user-generated content-based unicorn. So it seems like there is a very interesting trend going on in the education world where user-generated content is doing really well.
Well, I think that's right. Certainly, I would put Pluralsight a little differently. I'd say that's more like Udemy and others, where expert-driven content, where you're not these companies are not. You're right. Coursera is another example. These companies are not building huge content teams to create their own content. They're leveraging. Either in the case of Coursera, you're leveraging the high brand and the high quality of well-known global universities, and leveraging that content into a whole host of different channels, whether it's consumer or enterprise or degree or actual degrees. In the case of Pluralsight, Udemy, and a number of others, leveraging experts in their field to basically become teachers. You're basically recruiting professional experts to become professional teachers on your platform, and then having rev shares with those professionals. And Linda was an original there, and
yes,
in doing that, she Linda and her husband Bruce bootstrapped that company also. I'm sure you followed for forever till Excel came in, and that was, which was quite late. And so it's interesting. I think it's taking personal IP and monetizing it, right? I mean, you can, if you've got an ability today in a certain professional area that is in demand, the odds are you can hire yourself out to a learning platform it's real wide ranging. I think everything from the arts to vocational skills to serious coding and serious technology skills like you see on the Pluralsight platform. So it's really the elevation of superstar teachers.
Yeah, that's the conversation I actually had with Andrew in the context of Course Hero, is that he was trying to figure out a strategy for leveraging that trend of the celebrity teacher or the superstar teacher, as you called. Basically leveraging expertise and giving people a platform to teach on the Course Hero platform by riding on that trend. So I think that is a major trend as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone's a teacher.
Yeah. So when you look at COVID-induced changes, what do you see?
Yeah, what we've seen is an acceleration. We expected the the digital learning market to grow from 160 billion today to sort of towards the $500 million mark in 2026, a little bit under that. But what we've seen is, we think we've basically taken a step change, so a 2-year compression in that growth cycle. So actually, we're now projecting that we'll hit the digital learning market will be $1 trillion in 2026, and we can, we look at analogs like the adoption of e-commerce in the commerce area and the penetration levels of how that moved, and drawing analogs there amongst other things. So what we've seen, and it's not going to be certainly there are companies that are suffering and are going to are badly impaired by what's happened. Obviously, particularly companies that depend on any kind of physical setting and have not been able to pivot into an online delivery. But I think in general, we just had a phone call this morning with an entrepreneur in India who's seeing incredible changes in the dynamics in the Indian ed tech market because of this. Funnily enough, in India, you still sell, you go to people's homes to sell, a consumer product like education, like a tutoring service, even if it's online. And obviously, you're not able to do that under COVID, and it's sort of it's transformed the go-to-market, the sales strategies in India, because people are now going to be accustomed, habits are going to have changed, because it will be probably a long time before anyone is going to be going to anyone's house to sell something. So similarly here, certainly the going online, whether you look at K-12 or you look at higher ed, has not been perfect. In fact, I think you can read a whole lot about, its imperfections and dissatisfaction on the part of students, and questioning things like cost, and why would you pay the same amount for being online that you do to be there physically. And I think those are all important questions to be asked, with or without COVID. I think it's a great question. So I think it's going to, and it's also obviously elevated the fundamental issue of the digital divide, in that low-income students didn't have access to Wi-Fi, bandwidth, and devices, and in the way they have to. And I think that's going to, and that was something that existed before COVID. COVID just re-elevated it. And low-income students should be able to learn at home. It's not remote learning; it's learning at home. And so hopefully, out of this, we'll see some real moves by governments and and I think we're already seeing it, collaboration to make sure we get equity of access to low-income families around this, so they can participate equally in digital education, which I think is very encouraging and very important. So I think there are going to be all kinds of fascinating ramifications from what's happened. And as I think we all know, it's not exactly over. So people are still, I think people are going to be held to a high level of accountability to improve the online delivery of education. You can't just stick some people on Zoom and hope that it works.
Right, and that's one of the observations that I have, is that we've been covering online education from a journalistic point of view for a long time, 15 years, and the first shift was from this. You must have heard this expression, sage on stage to guide on side, where the teacher was asking people to go and look at YouTube videos or Khan Academy videos, and then coming and doing exercise in class. They were doing exercises, and the teacher was there to support and guide on the side. But I think we have taken another turn in this COVID crisis. If the teacher is on Zoom and the child, for the most part of the day, is learning at home on his or her own, and especially in households where there isn't a lot of education in the parents are not in a position to help them. And when it comes to high school, AP, calculus, and stuff like that, very few households have parents who can help with any of that. So those are technology, the software piece of that, the content piece of that, the workflow of teaching, all of this needs to change. I think there's a whole new paradigm coming into play now.
No, I think that's exactly right. I think what's interesting, I interviewed Alberto Carvalho on a virtual summit, and Alberto is a famous and wildly accomplished and spectacular superintendent of Miami-Dade. And Miami-Dade went online really easily, and they've had 91% attendance, which is mind-blowing when you hear about other districts. And to your point on parents, what they've done, they've created supports, but he actually views this as the opportunity to bring parents into the learning experience. That in a school setting, parents are really shut out, and you can't come to the building, you can't participate. And I loved how he thought about that, because even if you can't teach calculus, to be able to bring your parents into the room with your children and the teacher, and sort of see, have them actually participate more actively in the learning that's happening with their children in the public school systems, I thought was a very elegant observation. But yes, we do have to have, no, parents should not be, and I'm certainly not equipped anymore to teach calculus. So we get our products better and better and better. I think the products are getting better and better and better. And so I also think this is going to bring a whole lot of new, fresh entrepreneurs into the space.
Yes, exactly. I think that would be fantastic.
Exactly. And so we need the next, we had this wonderful wave that Andrew and others were in. And so it'll be great to have a new wave of folks come in to kind of address the things you're talking about.
Terrific. Deborah, I know you have to go. I've kept you longer than you had signed up for, so apologies for that.
So much. It was great to talk to you. Appreciate it.
It was great talking to you. Bye-bye. Take care. All right, folks, we are going to do one discussion from an entrepreneur, and I will answer. I've seen questions. Maureen is feeding me with the questions from the public chat, so I will get to the questions. Hold on for a second before you get antsy about not getting answers to your questions. You will get answers. Just to set expectations, what we do in the Entrepreneur Pitch session, today we have cut the Entrepreneur Pitch sessions short because, we were threatened by power cutoff. So we do have other pitches that we have pushed to next week, but we'll do one quick one today. Generally, though, the Entrepreneur Pitch session is a safe working session where you can share your challenges, and I will work with you to strategize on how to deal with those challenges. It is very possible that you would disagree with my feedback, and that's perfectly fine. You can listen, you can process the feedback, and then you can decide how you want to play your hand. Not all businesses can raise money. Not all businesses should raise money, and raising money doesn't guarantee success. This is something you do need to remember. All right, let us look at Sulay Shah from Toronto, Canada. Sulay, you have something that you want to discuss, but you have slides that are extremely cluttered. You have 6 slides in one slide. Why do you have 6 slides in one slide?
I guess we didn't want to make like too many slides, and this was more of a thing where, like, if I give these slides to someone, they can look at them in their own.
Yeah, but that's not this platform. So. This is a platform where people are looking at slides, and these slides are completely useless because no one can read such small prints and so much text. My first feedback to you is a very poor presentation.
Yeah, so make better slides. Got it.
Yeah, all right. Let's summarize in like a 30-second elevator pitch what you are doing, what you're trying to do, how can we help?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we are a platform that is trying to provide financial literacy and entrepreneurship education to kids. And we're also trying to build a social network for teenagers. So essentially, it's very similar to LinkedIn's concept, but also for teenagers that are trying to raise capital or just get mentorship and advice for building their own companies and products.
Okay. And what stage are you at right now? Is this
So
already launched? Is it happening, or is it something in cooking, in
it's
concept stage?
it's something that's in product stage. So we're still building the product. We're planning to go live sometime next month. Mid-July is our target, and we're on track right now.
And what is your customer acquisition strategy? How are you going to get users to get on this platform?
Yeah, so our current customer acquisition strategy has been to tie up with organizations and governments. So just yesterday or the day before, someone from our team was speaking to someone in the Prime Minister's office in Nepal, and we were trying to get a lot of our educational content to basically be taught in all the high schools in Nepal. And so our strategies is to start off by targeting some of the smaller countries and tying up with their governments to provide them educational content. And one of the reasons I think that it works is because, like, for example, if you look at Nepal, a lot of the content taught in their schools is decided by the government. So like, or even India too, you have like a state board, or you have like CBSC, which kind of is a board. And once you get your curriculum in CBSC, like, then that's like what everyone in that board learns. It's not school to school or university to university like it is in North America or Europe.
So are you trying to build this for those countries where it's all top down? And because the discussion we just had, it's interesting because you're trying to pitch an online education project, whereas we just had this discussion with Deborah on online education and what works, what doesn't work. What you heard, I'm sure, is that she is touting very heavily, and I actually consent with her based on my review of the market, is going through these early adopter teachers through the teacher-driven communities. You are trying to go top-down. This one, the strategy that is working really well is this grassroots kind of teacher-based adoption strategy. So what is your rationale for not considering a teacher-based adoption? Is that a geography-based thing? You're bypassing the U.S. and going after emerging markets that are more top-down? What is the driving factor?
So I think the one of the key challenges is that it's very hard to take a top-down approach in the States and in Canada. And so I got to learn something new when you were talking to Deborah, that a better approach actually is to go bottom up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, that's actually, it's very, very interesting and complete serendipity that you showed up on our forum when we had a spotlight on online education discussion with an investor and a great trend discussion. So I think your takeaway from this session is exactly that, is you may find a much higher velocity launch strategy if you can identify by mining these teacher communities online. If you can find teachers in various schools who are trying to teach entrepreneurship, and if you can get them to adapt your content and your platform, I think that would be a far more effective go-to-market strategy than trying to work with governments. Governments take a long time. The sales cycles would be so long. It's going to take so long for you to get to market and get any traction on your platform. You're going to go out of business.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, but the key challenge in a lot of emerging markets is that the bottom-up approach doesn't really work.
But I wouldn't go to the emerging markets. Go to US and Canada, where the bottom-up approach is working well, and you need to change your geography.
We are trying to make this a little more international, and emerging markets are definitely something where we have that we're focusing on essentially. And actually, we want to start off from targeting smaller countries because from what I feel, like if you look at the States, there are a lot of companies that are in the education space. There's a lot of competition. Versus if you go to like Nepal, then there's like barely any competition at all. And a lot of the companies that are in the education space just kind of can't pull it off because of the same challenges that Deborah outlined. Like there's no access to technology for a huge amount of the population. So essentially, what we would be doing is we would be working with the governments to, and so essentially what I'm saying is I think for every market that we target, such as like we can't use the same strategies that we use in India in the States. Like the US and India or Canada and Nepal are completely different target markets. And while bottom up would work really well in North America.
That is correct. That is correct. I think, most of the companies that have found huge success, huge bottom up adoption in those emerging markets, those companies have started in the US and have first found bottom up adoption in the US, and then companies like edX have found great bottom up adoption in India as well. India is one of the biggest markets for edX. And all these companies, Course Hero, Quizlet, they're seeing great adoption in the emerging markets as well. But the key question that I'm going to want you to take away from this session is sales cycle. What you are proposing to do is going to be such long sales cycles. I have some concerns about your survival. And that's something that's a concern you need to take very seriously.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely take note of that.
All right. Well, I'm going to explain how to use 1Mby1M, folks, and you're very welcome to ask more questions. In public chat, Maureen will send me the questions, and I will answer those questions, and I already have some, which I will take in a moment. So let's go to, one of our kind of requests to you is refer serious entrepreneurs into 1Mby1M. If you like what we do here, and maybe you've been here before, you're following our work for a while, you know that we give very direct feedback. The questions that we are discussing right now about the go-to-market strategy of the company that we just worked on is a dynamic discussion that counters the entrepreneur's primary assumptions. And that's something that you will see a lot in our community is we are not afraid to tell you that you're wrong, you may be wrong, and to offer you a different point of view that may be, potentially a more successful strategy. But of course, it's your venture. You will eventually do what you want, but we do want to work with entrepreneurs who are open and want to explore for good reason stuff that they may or may not know how to approach. So resources-wise, you will find everything at 1Mby1M.com. We have a terrific blog, and a lot of people learn just by following the blog, and you're very welcome to do that. The entire Entrepreneur Journey series of case studies, over 1,000 case studies, including 100 plus unicorns, 400 plus venture funded companies, another 400 plus bootstrap companies, all of that is available for free on our blog. So you can just start reading the Entrepreneur Journeys case studies or the thought leadership case studies, and you will learn a lot just from that. We have a 12-volume book series that is actually based on that content that is synthesized into topics and case studies. So these are case study-based books, 12 to 16 case studies per book, and you'll find those on Amazon Digital. All of them are available. Some of them are available in paperbacks as well, but everything is available digitally right now. These roundtables happen every week. We have had over 150,000 people attend, so extremely dynamic platform, and you're welcome to come as much as you want to. Our full acceleration program is 1M1M Premium, and we offer you extensive methodology guidance. We have a digital curriculum that is many hundred hours worth of curriculum. We want you to commit at least 50 hours of curriculum time to digest the core curriculum, because that is where we teach the methodology. It's really important that you take advantage of that curriculum. And we also help you with business development. Our network is one of the most powerful Rolodexes of Silicon Valley, and you will get access to that Rolodex through the premium program. We help you with strategy consulting, very similar sessions to these, but private sessions. These are closed door sessions for our members only, where we do the mentoring, coaching, consulting, whatever you call it, but the direct project-based interactive work. These are the working sessions. And then we also help you with financing, and we help you with media relations. We have a lot of clout in the media, and we have a fabulous investor network of hundreds of investors. You can go to the seed capital section of the blog and start reading or listening to investor interviews like what you heard earlier today, and you will learn a lot about what investor entrepreneur fit means. Just like you need product market fit, you also need investor entrepreneur fit, and we work on that. Go to the blog, go to the website actually, and go to the self-assessment. There you will find a free tool. It's a questionnaire for validation. This is what investors will ask you. Try to answer these questions and get to a better strategic place about your venture. If you get stuck on methodology points, you can sign up for 1M1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only option, and start learning for just $99 a month. If you just do it for a month, 50 hours, you have made good progress on the methodology front, and we strongly recommend that you do that. Again, this is all case study based, so you stand on the shoulders of other people who've done it before. So go dig around on the website. We explain very clearly and in great detail what to expect from premium, what to expect from basic. We have FAQs, video FAQs, full description of the curriculum. The case studies are, we have over 1,000 case studies. The curriculum is taught in video lectures and case studies. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient, bootstrap startups with an attitude of bootstrap first, raise money later, which is why we love these case studies. Course Hero, Pluralsight, these are all entrepreneurs who built significant revenue by bootstrapping and then went and raised money. A lot of money eventually. Pluralsight raised a lot of money. Course Hero has now raised a lot of money, but it is a bootstrap first, raise money later strategy. We have free roundtables every week in July, all of them on Thursday mornings, 8 a.m. Pacific, so July 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th. If you want to pitch or attend, please go to the free public roundtables page on our blog, on our website, and go ahead and register, and Maureen will advise you on how to prepare. Remember, don't put a lot of text on your slides. It doesn't work. We also do these online rendezvous, which are Q&A sessions, and these are held on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific time on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter live. So if you go to LinkedIn at 8 a.m. Pacific time and you're connected to me or you're following me, you will get a notification that I'm live, and you can just, sign on to that session right there. These are going to be on June 30th, one more in June, and then 4 more in July, 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th. That's it. You are very welcome to call in and chat with me, or use the public chat to write in your questions, and I will answer them now. Let me also introduce you, as you're getting your questions ready, to Irina Patterson. She's on our team, and will answer questions about the 1M1M program. Okay, I have a question from Thomas Ann. What's the future role of Silicon Valley location in the new normal? Will we see more startups forming outside the central hub? Absolutely, it's already been a trend. Startups are forming everywhere. And the likelihood of startups forming in lower cost geographies where quality of life is higher and cost of living is lower is very attractive. And I think this trend is going to accelerate tremendously. Silicon Valley will always have its place because, COVID at some point is going to be over, and the ecosystem of Silicon Valley, the funding ecosystem, the business development ecosystem, the presence of very powerful companies in the ecosystem will have value, obviously, but it will also continue to support the trend that there's going to be large operations all over the world. And, maybe there will be 2, 4, 5, 6 people in Silicon Valley, and the larger teams are going to be elsewhere in the world. So that's a trend that I'm actually very much looking forward to, because I believe in that trend. I believe in distributed development, and that's one of the reasons why we founded 1Mby1M. So if you're anywhere in the world and you're looking for introductions into the Silicon Valley investor network, or trying to look for channel partners or customers in Silicon Valley, we would be very happy to help you. That's why we founded 1Mby1M. I have another question here. Hi, it's Romana. I'm a business psychologist/coach from Singapore. I would like to offer accelerator turnkey services to corporate, varsities, and public clients by bundling Incubator in a Box with my coaching, consulting, and facilitation. How would you think I may go to market leveraging on your brand name in order to get more buy-in, speed, and traction? I have not thought about it at all. So what I would suggest is you go through the Incubator in a Box section in a lot of detail and then start dialoguing with Irina. She has a lot of experience with Incubator in a Box, and she will be happy to dialogue with you on the topic. Irina is at irina@1Mby1M.com, and you can talk to her by phone or Skype, and she'll be happy to dialogue with you. All right, any other questions? Sulay is asking, do you provide industry contacts to individuals trying to raise capital? Yeah, absolutely. Fundraising is part of the 1Mby1M program, premium program. You have to be in the premium program. And you absolutely have access to the network, but you have to be at a stage where you're fundable before we can introduce you to our contacts. Go to the section on our website where I've discussed that. There's a whole section on investor introductions. Maureen, you may want to share the link to the investor introduction section on the public chat, and please go through that before you sign up for 1Mby1M Premium. Just by signing up for Premium, you don't get introduced to investors. Thomas, you're very welcome. I'm very happy to answer your question. And Janet says she spoke with Irina, and Irina asked her to post her question in chat. What is the question? What is Janet's question? Oh, is that the Singapore business psychologist coach question? Oh, I see. To be honest, I haven't thought about this. We don't necessarily let people use our brand unless there is a significant relationship. You are welcome to use your Incubator in a Box in your coaching practice. You can use our curriculum in your coaching practice, and you can refer your clients into our coaching, but you cannot go to people and tell them that you are a coach who is certified by 1Mby1M. That is not something that we allow you to do. So if that's what you're looking for, that's not something we allow you to do. Does that answer the question? Maureen, is Janet okay with the answer that I just provided? Is that the confusion? Maybe that's why Irina asked her to pose the question in chat. I'm not going to spend time on this offline. You're going to have to work with Irina. We have no certification program for coaches. One thing that you can provide her with, Maureen, is the 15 questions for business coaches that we have on the website, on the blog, that actually addresses this issue of what feedback we have for coaches. That's something that she may find helpful. I don't have bandwidth to discuss this kind of stuff offline, Janet. I'm sorry. That's not part of my workflow. This kind of stuff you have to ask Irina, and if Irina has confusions, Irina is going to check with me, but that's something that I'm not going to engage in. Thomas asks, I'd like to pay dollars for deal flow. I'm a VC in Canada. Thomas, how big is your fund? $10 million, okay. And what is the focus of the fund? This may be one where if you could send your contact, actually we have your contact, I think this may be one where with a bit more due diligence, we should have you come to one of our programs, one of our roundtables and be a guest. And then if you're actually interested in doing something more meaningful and deeper with us, I would suggest you look at Incubator in a Box for venture capitalists. So Maureen, if you could give Thomas the link to Incubator in a Box and Incubator in a Box for venture capitalists, the best way to do that would be to do a co-branded accelerator for specific to your VC fund and with us, and that would be the best way to funnel deal flow and develop a pipeline for you through our network. Does that make sense? Right. Yeah, okay. So let's, this is, again, another one that Irina should take. Maureen, why don't you connect Thomas and Irina and let Irina work with him on Incubator in a Box for venture capitalists, and we can work this out. This is not a complex one to put together. This one we have a very clear framework for. And then I think, Maureen, we should hold the discussion inviting Thomas to the roundtable for when we launch that accelerator. If we end up doing that, that will make it more powerful rather than inviting him, ahead of time. Sulay has a question. On a high level, when do you think a company is ready? Ready for what? To raise money. We need validation. Unvalidated companies do not get funded. I mean, if you can show that you can get governments like the Nepalese government or maybe the Botswana government to authorize your program as the, as a curriculum element, and the government is paying for this, that would be a situation where we may be able to raise capital. But if you have a very long sales cycle, investors hate long sales cycle businesses. Any other questions? There are a couple of links that Maureen will give you, one for Janet and one for Thomas, or a couple for Thomas. That may be helpful. It's the Sulay asks whether either a growing business or a revenue stream, a fast-growing business. Investors don't invest in slow growth businesses, high velocity business. Maureen, what you're looking for is also 15 questions for managers of technology startup accelerators and 10 tips for technology business coaches and startup mentors. Those are the 2 links for Janet. 10 tips for technology business coaches and startup mentors. Sulay, FYI, this may help you think about this. Investors invest in, I'm talking about the venture capital world, VCs are looking to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. If you have a very long sales cycle, you would never get to that kind of high velocity growth. And therefore, that makes your business not fundable by VCs. Which is fine. You can grow a slower growth business in a bootstrap mode. That's perfectly okay. And that also has produced many, many successful businesses, and that's perfectly fine. We have nothing against bootstrapping businesses. But if you're looking for venture capital, then you're going to have to produce a high velocity business. And without that, you will not be able to raise money, or something that feels like a high velocity business. Maureen, is there any other question in the public chat? All right, we wrap up for today, and I will see you maybe Tuesday morning on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter live, or I will see you next Thursday during the next public roundtable. See you soon. Be safe. Infections are growing in America and in a lot of parts of India and in many other places. Infections are receding in Europe, which is great news. If you're in Germany, you're in a good place. Even Spain, France, Italy are in a good place. But if you're in Delhi, for instance, or some other parts of India, or if you're in some of the states in the US where infections are growing, please wear masks and be very, very careful. All right, take care. See you soon. Bye.